In the next 60 minutes here on News Night, 3 state institutions forced to cough up 18.5 million cedis as the ECG task force goes hard after them in the first day of a nationwide debt collection exercise.
We went to the Ghana Airports Company. They owed an arrears of 28 million Ghana cedis, of which they made 10 million Ghana cedis payment instant just when we got there.
We have details as the task force storms Parliament, the Ghana Airport Company, and the state broadcaster GBC, all of whom hold the ECG significant sums. Also tonight, safety experts question the Vice President's directive to return traders to fire-ravaged KGTL market, putting a scheduled week audit of firefighting controlling systems on hold and the safety of traders in jeopardy.
A fire of that magnitude, I would have thought they should have allowed at least minimum 72 hours for an audit to be done and to find out where the shortfalls were and then resolve them before the market is opened.
We'll hear from as many as 8 associations comprising of the traders and occupants who have welcomed the recommendations.
We are very much grateful to the government, especially the Vice President who made that pronouncement. And after this, we are also going to embark on a massive education. There are things that are not warranted in the market. We are not going to tolerate them.
Also tonight we'll hear from the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, as they indicate its preliminary probe into the death of 5 people on Lake Volta points to negligence of the boat owner.
The owner of the boat has been arrested for overloading the boat. It has a capacity of between 40 to 45, and from the report, they've loaded over 90 to 95.
And in business, Ghana likely to secure IMF board approval for economic program for middle of May 2023 rather than the end of this month.
And in sports, I cannot guarantee a trophy for the Black Stars. That's Chris Heaton as he's unveiled as new head coach of the senior national team.
And then today, the People's Fact Check will take you to districts in Ashanti region where residents have begun fact-checking claims of the operations of factories under the 1D1F policy in their areas. Stay with us for details. And you're still live here on News Night. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. And tonight, 3 state institutions have been forced to cough up as much as 18.5 million cedis they owe the Electricity Company of Ghana after the ECG stormed their premises as part of a nationwide debt collection exercise to recover as much as 5.7 billion cedis owed by customers. The amount is part of a total of 46.9 million cedis owed by Parliament, the Ghana Airport Company Limited, and the state broadcaster, the Ghana Broadcasting Company, now GBC. The 3 state-owned institutions were visited today and owe the ECG a total of 46.9 million cedis. You can listen to the manager of external communications at the ECG, Leila Bubakari, who spoke to journalists after the exercise.
Force is the one that is in charge of our state-owned enterprises, the ministries, departments and agencies under the ministry. And so we have been going with them today. We visited Parliament House. They were owing about 13 million. They've committed to paying 8 million by close of the 8.5 million Ghana cedis. We saw evidence of that. And then we went to the Ghana Airports Company. They owed an arrears of 28 million Ghana cedis, of which they made 10 million Ghana cedis payment instant just when we got there. So we're giving them 48 hours to make the full payment. And now we're here at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. They also owe in arrears about 6 million Ghana cedis. And so they have explained to us that because of the way they run their operations, they wouldn't be able to cough out the money for us instantly. They've had some discussions with their minister, the Minister of Information, and then the National Media Commission, together with the Ministry of Energy. And there was some sort of agreement last year. However, ECG's point is that there hasn't been any movement on the debt that is remaining. They have explained to us that they have a system they are going to get some money and then pay, because they have to find innovative ways of coming up with the money. And so we've been given permission to leave them for now for 48 hours. We need to see some movement on that 6 million Ghana cedi debt.
18.5 out of about 46 million. Is that satisfying for your first day?
Not satisfying at all, but I believe I've actually received pictures of the staff on the ground, because it's an all hands on deck approach we're using. So in Tema, we've received photos of disconnections happening in residences. We've received photos of them visiting some of the industry in Tema, and they are being disconnected. I am hoping that by the end of the day, we should be able to see a lot of money coming into our account.
Well, that's the Communications and External Relations Manager at ECG, Leila Bubakari. Well, my colleague James Aveji traveled with the ECG team when they went to the ground, and this wasn't all smooth sailing.
You can't. Security man also in your security man.
And James joins me in the studio right now. What is it that we're hearing in the background?
So, Evans, that was the premises of the Ghana Airport Company Limited. When we got there, the security personnel on the grounds wouldn't allow us first entry to the place, and then later they would not allow us to film anything at the premises. They say that our presence there, they call it an invasion into their premises, because they didn't have any notification that we will be coming there to conduct any exercise. And so it became a bit of a scuffle between the media as well as the security personnel on the ground, drawing the attention of managers of the Ghana Airport Company, who came, spoke to us, as well as the ECG, and then that initiated a meeting between the two parties, the ECG as well as the Ghana Airport Company, which lasted for about some 10-15 minutes, when the ECG came back to tell us that they have agreed to pay. They have actually paid 10 million out of the 18 million Ghana cedi. And so what you heard there was the agitation between the media as well as the security personnel at the Ghana Airport Company Limited.
So this is a Ghana Airport Company. We know
Yes.
they are serial defaulters when it comes to paying ECG bills. And then you went to Parliament, and then also GBC. I guess there were no incidents there to report. But in each of these places,
at Parliament, it was the same issue, just that it didn't resolve into any form of confrontation. When we got there, we were told that we don't have to film anything in the premises of Parliament.
But the ECG officials had access to the parliamentary, I guess, authorities to have a discussion about the debt.
Exactly.
And same with GBC as well.
With GBC as well. And so for the two other places, there was not any form of confrontation between the parties involved, except the Ghana Airport Company Limited.
When is it resuming?
We are resuming tomorrow. It's actually a 1-month exercise, and so we are resuming tomorrow. Just for clarity's sake, the National Task Force team, which led today's operation, is part of the other operation teams, and so they are designated specifically to the state-owned enterprises. And so tomorrow they will resume to visit to the other state-owned enterprises who are owing the Electricity Company of Ghana.
Okay, thank you very much, Abaji. Let's bring in now Manager of External Communications at the ECG, Leila Bubakari, joins us on the line right now. Leila, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for having me. Sorry.
So today you collected 18.5 million. See, that's a significant amount. This money, has it hit your account already?
It's significant to you because you wish it was in your account.
Oh, yes,
in
of course.
This account is less than a drop because our target is 5 billion Ghana cedi. So 18 million, it's nothing. But I'm hoping that at the end of the day, what will come into the account of ECG would be significant enough for us to announce to you guys later.
I mean, so what it meant was the agencies you visited, Parliament, GBC, and Airport Company, they had money, and they were waiting for you to visit them before they make payment to you. I mean, that must come to you as a surprise, even yourself.
Well, I'd say that for Parliament, for instance, they had signed some checks but hadn't made the payment. The reason why this was so, we still haven't ascertained that, either probably because they didn't take the checks to ECG offices to make the payment, or probably they were expecting some officials from ECG to pick the checks up. I don't know how their payment arrangement had been before now, but they had signed about 3 checks or so since last year that had not been paid into the accounts of ECG. They showed these checks to us, and then we went ahead. They re-signed new checks for us right there, but we do not receive checks anymore as a company. And so we had to show them the process of paying the checks into the account. For Ghana Airport, the moment we got there, they gave us a seat, and after about 30 minutes, we were called that they had made a transfer of equivalent of $1 million into the account of ECG, and that they were going to make the rest of the payments in the next few days. With GBC, they have an arrangement, or they say they had an arrangement with the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Information. I think last year when they were disconnected for about 2 weeks, the two ministries sat down and then had an agreement. Some of the debt was cleared off. The remainder is what they are still looking at how to pay for. So right now we've given them about 48 hours. That's all our bosses have given us time. And so we'll be going back to the premises of Parliament, of GBC, and of Ghana Airport to retrieve the rest of the money.
And so they have 48 hours to pay the rest. And then from what I understand, collectively they owe you 46.9 million cedis, correct?
Yeah, approximately that.
So in 48 hours' time, you expect that they will pay up the entire 46.9 million cedis to you?
Exactly.
Okay. Did they indicate that they can find this money to you? Did they, when you told them they have 48 hours to do this? What was your response?
No, when it comes to these things, the answer is never straightforward. There are always processes that every organization, especially the state-owned organizations, there are processes they have to go through sometimes to get some of these payments approved. And sometimes they can take more than a day. So some of these reasons are thrown at us so that they manage our expectations. But then we're also telling them that you have exceeded the time for which you were supposed to pay. By PRC regulations, we are to disconnect you, and then we can have a discussion later. Because if that power has been given to you and you haven't paid for it, it means we are just running at a deficit, which is not good for our business. And so we'd rather take you off the grid so that you stop consuming, and then we can talk about the amount that you owe us. So really, we shouldn't be giving anyone any breathing space, but we're just being nice and, trying to understand their processes as well. So 48 hours, I think, we would have done very well. And whatever processes that they need to go through should have checked out by then.
So in 48 hours, bottom line, if they are unable to still pay at that time, you will disconnect them?
The task force has a very clear mandate and very strict instructions from the managing director because he's under fire. He's not taking any reason. So today, even at GBC, they didn't want to leave because the instructions were clear. They had to make a few calls and get some approvals before they left. So it's going to be like that for all the agencies. And we have pre-informed everyone that we are coming after you. If you know you owe us, just do the needful right now and pay before we get to your doorstep.
I mean, at least 2 of these agencies appear to be serial defaulters. I remember very clearly last year you disconnected the airports company. It was big news. And then Parliament as well, if I'm not mistaken. And yet they haven't still paid. And aren't you being too charitable, especially when they have a track record of just defaulting, even when you've disconnected them before?
Yes, I think that on the value chain of the electricity supply, we're all being charitable, from the generators to some of us, the distributors. I think that it's what has caused us where we are now. And the fact that Gridco is being owed several millions by ECG. Gridco owes other people. ECG owes several IPPs. Everyone is being charitable, and it's not helping at all. So now the MD, Mr. Jubik Mahama, is saying, it's time for us to act as a business. If it was a private business, no one would run it the way it's being run. We need to change our attitude about some of these things. And it's more or less a simple business module we're running. We buy electricity from these generators, and then we sell as retailers to the consumer. We're just to collect the money, pay those on the value chain, and then use the surplus for our processes and network upgrades. But it's not as simple as that. it's supposed to be simple, but it's not simple. And so now we are saying, when everyone is planning their year, definitely electricity is included in the expenditure or their budgets. This time, we're expecting everyone to pay. If you don't pay, we are taking you off the grid. Straight up, no negotiations, nothing. Because a lot of people say ECG is inefficient and incapable of collecting your bills here and there. And it's just not nice anymore that we sit back and allow all these things to happen just because we're being...
There's a big question around sustainability of this measure that you've begun. And I recollect, as I just mentioned, that when you disconnected Airports Company last year, again, it was part of another nationwide disconnection revenue collection exercise. And obviously, the fact that you're back to them negotiating again means there wasn't a follow-through. What's the guarantee that this time this is sustained over a period until you get all your 5.7 billion cedis you owed?
Well, last year's one was a little bit different. It was a moratorium that we put around that. We knew that people were owing us. We didn't want to, disconnect people without notice. And so we gave our customers about 1 month to make payment. And then we went in to do these disconnections. As for the MDAs and the SOEs, we've always had that issue where most of them owe us for several years. And because they are under government, sometimes our hands are tied. We realized that the debt that was sitting in our books was becoming heavier and heavier. It was becoming harder for us to, get it off. And so stricter measures had to be taken. So last year, we began the operation, which went really well. So this year, we are looking at, okay, how many more can we put on blast? And, because a lot of people try to protect. And I don't know, I think I heard you talking about the Ghana airport situation. Today we went in peace. We were just there to take our money. And it turned into a very unnecessary scuffle. I was telling the gentleman that this is not how it's supposed to be. You've made a payment and we're about to leave. You are worried that the media is going to put out your name there. But the best thing for you to have done was to pay the bill. If you have the money, pay the bill so that it doesn't have to get to this. So the sustainability of this will also depend on how much we are able to collect today. And by today, I mean this in exercise that's running for a month. And then the continuity of it. We already have the systems in-house. We have a revenue mobilization team that has been instituted for a very long time. It's just not being as enforced as it is now. It's not as empowered as it is now. But with the new MD very solidly behind the team, there's so much confidence in everyone who is working in ECG that if you owe me, I have the right to collect the money so long as it has exceeded the 30 days that we have agreed on that you should pay. So from now onwards, it's going to be something that would be very common. You would see us at your doorstep, especially if you're postpaid. Usually the prepaid don't have any problem. It's only those who have bypass that we have problems with. But the postpaid, we are coming after you if you don't come and pay your bill. And we've made it easy by giving you different avenues. There's a power app now. You can sit at home and pay. You can dial *226# and make the payment. You can go to a mobile money agent and make the payment, or you can present a check at the bank. So the avenues are there.
And so who's next from tomorrow? Which agencies are you visiting next? And the question keeps coming up, why don't you simply fix these agencies with prepaid meters so you just stop spending fuel and time going chasing the money?
Yes, we are going to also, that will be one of the phases we'll be tackling next. For some facilities, they cannot run on prepaid. For instance, the hospitals. It will be detrimental to them, especially if they do not buy enough credit and there's a critical surgery or something life-threatening happening in their lights go off. And so for some of these sensitive institutions, we allow them to use the postpaid. For Ghana airports, for instance, their runway always has to be lit up. So we are considering a system where we look at different sections of the facility where there has to be a postpaid meter. We would meter it separately. The theater areas and the main halls, the runway, for instance, will all be postpaid. Then the prepaid meters would go to the administrative blocks and other places where they can do without electricity if we do come after them, or if they are not able to buy their own credit.
Thank you very much, Leila. Leila Abubakari is the Manager of External Communications at the ECG. I want to bring in Dr. Steve Mateo now. He's the Policy Analyst and Campaign Coordinator at the Integrated Social Development Center. Very key when instrumental in the process of restructuring ECG when we were attempting to bring in a concessionaire. They studied ECG work quite extensively and joins us on the telephone line right now. Dr. Steve Mateo, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. So you've seen this approach. To be fair, we've had this before. You just had the ECG manager stress that this will be sustained. Your reaction? Hello, Dr. Mateo. Okay. Get Dr. Mateo's thoughts on this right now. And by the way, this attempt to get the monies and recover isn't only affecting state institutions. It also will be affecting private users, consumers of ECG as well. And so if you haven't paid up your bill, you well must go and settle that before the ECG disconnection team visits your home. Dr. Mateo is with me on the line. And Doc, you've seen this before. We've all seen this massive disconnection exercises before. As I mentioned to the manager of ECG last year, Parliament and Ghana Airports Company were both disconnected. And of course,
your call has been put on hold.
We've now returned to a conversation with them. What do you make of this current exercise, but also questions around sustainability? Unfortunately, we're having a challenge with Dr. Steve Mateo's telephone line. But I want to hear from you on this, wherever you are tonight. Send me your thoughts. If you're one of those who haven't paid, be honest about it, but also find your way to the ECG stations and make payment there. Well, safety experts are tonight questioning the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's directive to return traders to fire-ravaged Kejetia market in the Ashanti region, Kumasi, putting a scheduled safety audit of firefighting controlling systems on hold and the safety of traders in jeopardy. It is not clear what will become of the planned investigation by three safety institutions, the Fire Service, DADMO, and the police, in assessing the safety and structural integrity of the facility following the Vice President's reopening announcement. Here's the Deputy Local Government Minister, Obiamwa, explaining to journalists the decision which was taken by management of the market and experts on reconstruction and disaster management.
Decentralization, rural development reserves the right to set up a committee, and as soon as possible it sets it up. They will depend on the fact-finding issues and the recommendations of the committee to be able to go on as to how to prevent such a situation again, and especially to make sure that the new one which is being built will not go through this process.
Well, the Vice President, who was at the market with his wife earlier, indicated that the initial report from the Fire Service indicated it wasn't an electrical fault, and so traders could return tomorrow.
The Fire Service for any animal for say about saying Adeti na Ajay Eba what church the brother said, Omo investigation, Omo who said, Obi Nia Adriani, I want the shop. Now, Otto, or Niani gas, Sir, Owana, a general, a shares, Obi Nia Adriani, I want the shop. Oriented gas. Sa asemi oho yeben hono so nipa ton chemicals carbide turpentine any gunpowder nyina eben ho nyina entina ejano ehye ase muhu se explosion so eba.
So that's a Vice President there talking about the cause of the fire based on the briefing that he got from the Fire Service. He points to the fact that he's been told that it was cooking that caused the fire because someone left his gas stove unattended, and that started the entire inferno. And as a result of that, that particular part of the market can be cordoned off whilst the remaining part of the market is open for business beginning tomorrow. Let's bring in right now the fire service official, who I know by the fire service themselves have been conducting their own investigations into this. DO3 Desmond Aka is a National Fire Service Deputy Communications Director and joins us on the line right now. Thank you, Mr. Aka, for your time. Your News 9.
Evans, good evening and thanks for having me.
And last week when we spoke, your commander in Ashanti region had also put together a team to investigate. We just heard from the Vice President that now the source of the fire has been isolated, and that cooking was the issue. I believe this was based on the report of your own findings?
Well, Evans, that is exactly so. That is what our preliminary investigations are pointing to. But as I speak with you, we are not done, not concluded with our investigations yet. But for now, that is the heads up we want to give the general public based on the evidence available.
You've indicated you're not done yet. What's left to be done?
Yes, we are trying to get witnesses to what we have been able to establish as of now. And in no time, we should be able to conclude on that. So as soon as we are done, we will let you know. But for now, that is what our preliminary investigations are pointing to. Okay. There are a lot of issues coming up, and we want to be able to do a diligent work on that.
Is the fire service comfortable with the traders returning to work tomorrow, as has been indicated, whilst you still continue with your investigations?
I wouldn't say that we are comfortable, but we can manage with what we have been able to establish as of now. The good news is that the affected portion will not be opened. It's just that the other remaining parts of the market that will be open to the traders. We are still in talks with the management to get the other requirements with respect to the detection system, the firefighting systems working, so that in the event of any foreseeable fire incident, it will be able to be deployed to function perfectly. So, like I said earlier, we are busily working on the other aspects of the investigations. And I believe in no time, once we've been able to get this preliminary findings down, we'll be able to narrow and then conclude our investigation. We have the exhibits, those things that led to the fire, the cooking apparatus and all that. We have them in our custody. So we want to be able to get witnesses to that. And we've gotten some few people who are attesting to that.
I get the sense that ideally you would have preferred that the market remained shut completely until you completely finish and wrap up your investigations.
Yes, but the case available, we will not be able to do that. So we are happy that the affected area has been cordoned off to enable us to conclude our report.
Please stay with me and for a while longer. I want to bring in right now, who also joining us for a conversation on this, on the back of the market now reopening, the vice president's orders. The executive chairman of Safety Ghana, Nana Amehia, the second, joins us on the telephone line right now. And Nana, thanks for your time here on News Night. And so the market, the traders will return to do trading in the market tomorrow. The part of the market that caught fire will still be cordoned off for the fire service to continue with its work. The fire service says, yeah, they can work with that. Of course, ideally, they would like this entire market to be closed down. What's your take on the approach that the state is adopting, trying to, I guess, accommodate the concerns of the traders, but also continue with investigations?
Evans, it's been a long while. Let me say good evening to your cherished and discerning listeners. In Ghana, all too often, we look at other people's interests and we ignore the right measures or safety measures in place before we do things. I'm not a great fan of centralized markets. KGTI is not one of my my favorites. That we have markets instead of having satellite markets that can people can go in and out easily. But all said the opening of the market should have waited for at least for the audit to have been concluded and found out what control measures that can be put in place to forestall the fire reoccurring again. Those who are agitating that they want to go to the market and do their trading, it's for their own interest that the right measures are put in place before they go to the market. And they said common events cast their shadows. Now, this market fires that have happened in Kumasi so many times, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If the right thing is not done, what will happen next? Fortunately, this time around, there were no fatalities. But if the right measures are not put in place and people rush and agitate to go back, and of course, the politicians, they always want to do things to please the electorate. So they will say, yes, go ahead. But if you go and then the fire outbreak happens again, who is going to suffer? Well, I heard that apparently the fire that it was speculated to be electrical fire was not electrical fire, but apparently it was gunpowder that caught fire because somebody was cooking. Is that right, Evans?
Well, the fire service officer is on the line with us,
yes.
And he can just stay with me. He can confirm that. He confirms that yes, they tracked this to cooking, but Mr. Aka, was this fire accelerated because of the existence in that proximate area of gunpowder? Hello, Mr. Aka.
Hello, Evans.
What was gunpowder in the proximity of this cooking that may have escalated the fire?
Yes, I understand that during today's store, one of the shop owners was identified to have been selling gunpowders and materials like that, and he was referred to the police to take charge. So, like I said the last time, segregation in the market is also an issue that we are still engaging the market management to look at. Because for a big market like KJTR, we should be particular about how wares are arranged. Because even in the olden time central market, we used to have segregation of wares that you could even find where clothes are sold, other merchandise are also sold. But in this case, it seems we are back to square one. I mean, anybody who is ready to pay for a shop is given access, and whatever he or she wants to sell is allowed. And that is really what led to the escalation of this particular fire. So I believe that the committee working on the circumstances and on the report on the incident will capture all these important details so that the right control measures are put in place.
In the meantime, the market still remains without a fire certificate.
Yes. We cannot renew their certificate because of what we have already outlined, like their existing fire protection systems and firefighting systems are not actually functioning the way we expect them to. So not until those things are done, there's no way we are going to renew their certificate for them.
Nana, there you have it.
Yes, but Evans, how do the fire service allow a market that has not been certificated to operate? It never happens anywhere. All too often, Evans, we want to imitate blindly the way Europeans do things and stuff like that. Centralized market, the way we are mixing gunpowders, to all intents and purposes, there are some explosives elsewhere that, when there's fire, becomes a fuel for explosions and all manner of things. I don't know. When I was talking earlier to your producer, I heard that when the fire started, people were going on ropes to escape, and I was like, wait a minute. So when they designed the market, when there escape routes, when there was fire.
Well, there were. I mean, last week we learned that some of the traders refused clear instructions from fire service officers deployed to help with the situation.
Because they have not been taught. The role, you see, all too often I keep on saying that the role of NADMO is not just to wait for an incident to happen and then they will go around sharing a bag of rice and what have you. Their mandate is to be able to educate the public on fire safety at every point in time. The market, as we have I'm told there are about 10,000 shops. Do they know how to even quench an incipient fire when it happens? Because it's an incipient fire that escalates into an out of control fire. So if that incipient fire is killed, there will be no fire outbreak. But Evans, how many of people in the market know how to stop an incipient fire when it starts?
Well, so that clearly is an issue. But I'm grateful, Nana Noame here II, for your thoughts on this. And he is with Safety Ghana, sharing their thoughts on the situation in KJT. Earlier, you heard National Fire Service Deputy Communications Director, DO3, Desmond Aka. You're still listening to Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM. And George Yaffe is here with the very latest from the world of business. When we return, we'll hear from NADMO. As it says, its initial probe into the death of 5 people on the Lake Volta points to negligence of the boat owner. Stay with us.
You're welcome to Business on the Newsnight. And Ghana likely to secure IMF board approval for economic program for middle of May 2023 rather than the end of this month. And all oil marketing companies can now sign up onto the Go for Oil program after the markets regulator reviewed the requirements. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, Ghana is likely to secure an IMF board approval for its economic program from the middle of May 2023 rather than the end of this month. Now, this is what Joy Business has picked up from persons with knowledge of the current negotiations with the fund. There is more in this report.
The fact that Ghana may not be able to meet all the required preconditions for it to secure the IMF board approval for the country's economic program. This includes reaching a deal with all its creditors on the debt restructuring, as well as getting their buy-in to fully participate in Ghana's program with the IMF. There are also concerns that Ghana may not be able to pass all the revenue measures needed before the end of this month. Now, even if the program is ready today, it may need about 6 weeks to go through all the IMF departments, which is a requirement before it is submitted to the IMF board for approval. Ghana must also go through the African department to get a slot for an IMF board approval. Based on the current calendar of the IMF, Ghana is said to have lost out on getting the board to sit in April to approve its program. Well, looking at how things are structured at the IMF, it is more likely that Ghana may get the program from the middle of May 2023. But government insists it's working very hard to submit its program to the IMF board by the end of this month.
That is a business text report. Well, some investment analysts and economists are downplaying any negative impact of delayed program approval on the economy by the IMF board. They argue that most investors have already priced the risk that Ghana may not get the deal by the end of this month, despite government insistence that it's working to submit the program by the end of this month. Mike Kobler is chief executive of investment firm Synergy Ghana, as well as Dr. Tuflos Champon. They've been speaking to Joy Business.
I'm sure that price is in already, and in their projections, this is not going to happen until the middle of the year. I mean, I don't believe that anybody's expecting that the IMF thing will be concluded by the end of March. It's not going to happen.
Some of the worst excesses, from where I sit, perhaps has passed. The most difficult period was the process leading up to the domestic debt exchange, the attempted panic withdrawals of people wanting to, take their monies out. But I think since that time, we've seen quite a number of positive developments happening already, and that's what in a way also gives me confidence that even if this does not happen by the end of this month, we will still be fairly okay.
And he first heard Mike Kobler, his chief executive of Synergy Ghana, and economist, that is Dr. Theo Echampon. Now, all the oil marketing companies in the country can now participate in government Gold for Oil program. Now, this was after the National Petroleum Authority reviewed the requirement needed for the oil firms to participate in the program. The authority, however, maintains that these companies must be in good standing with the National Petroleum Authority and the Ghana Revenue Authority. They also must be willing to pass on the benefits to consumers. Abat Otunsi is the head of economic regulations at the National Petroleum Authority.
The program started in January. We mentioned that the criteria that had been set was going to be revised as more volumes of products are imported. The first criteria had to be determined because at the time, the volumes were not significant for it to be spread thinly among so many oil marketing companies. And therefore, it was very important that we had a criteria that was going to ensure that the volumes at the time was going to be felt, or the impact of the price at the time was going to be felt at the pump. And that's how come we came up with the very first criteria that said we were looking at oil marketing companies that were within the top 25 market share with at least 45 retail outlets. Subsequent to that, we reviewed it again as more volumes were imported. And at this time around, we increased it to top 40, OMCs within the top 40 of market share with at least 10 oil marketing companies. But if you've been following, you notice that more cargoes have been imported under the program. And therefore, there's no need to now have a criteria that limits the number of marketing companies. And as we speak now, we've opened it up to all oil marketing companies. Like you mentioned, the only criteria we are looking at now is that you must be in good standing.
Abbas Tatunti is the head of economic regulations at the National Petroleum Authority. Now, Unilever Ghana says it is committed to working with other interested organizations to improve dental care in the country. Officials of the company disclosed this at the launch of a campaign to encourage people to take steps to improve their oral health and introduction of a tele-dentistry service. Osatu Obuvuan is the category manager in charge of oral care at Unilever Ghana.
We have started our tele-dentistry service. We know that access to dentists is one of the key barriers that prevents people from going to actually visit a dentist. So we have decided to do what we are calling bringing the dentist closer to the consumer. And how we have chosen to do this is to make it possible for consumers to access dental consultation via their mobile devices. So you can have a conversation with a dentist, either digitally or virtually, and you can get information on how to take care of oral health problems that you can deal with at home. Now, if you're not able to do at-home care, then the dentist will recommend that you visit a dental clinic.
Category manager at Oral Care Unilever Ghana, Osatu Obovuan, and to the stock market. If you're an investor in Funlock, you lost 18 pesos, and now the value of its share that you're holding is 1 Ghana cedi, 62 pesos. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, George. Let's do sports, and it's been a big day at the GFA. We have the outdooring of our new coach, and his name is Chris Hughting. When is his first game?
On Thursday against Angola, and he has already started training with the Black Stars. Had training with some 8 players of the Black Stars at the Kraft Sports Stadium earlier this afternoon. But at the unveiling, he actually said that he cannot guarantee a trophy for the Black Stars. Well, Hughting says he will, however, be committed to building a side that will be competitive for every fixture and tournament. At the same presser, he called on Ghanaians to support him and the team, especially in the qualifiers on Thursday.
There is not one coach, head coach or manager that would sit up here and guarantee a trophy. There is not one, because we cannot guarantee anything. What we can guarantee is that we will work as hard as we can to put a team together to create the right tactics, the right mentality, the right personnel to put ourselves in the best position to do that. And that first thing that comes with qualification. So we will work as hard as we can.
So that's Chris Hughting there, and he also called on Ghanaians to support the team. And Evans, of course, that support starts on Thursday when the Black Stars take on Angola at the Barra Sports Stadium.
Is it friendly?
It's an AFCON qualifier,
okay.
actually.
That's
Yes.
a big game.
Yeah,
That's
big
a
game.
proper
And
game.
I think 4 or 5 days later, we'll go to Angola to play the second leg of that game. But 8 players have already arrived in camp, and he had training with them at the Accra Sports Stadium. Antoine Semenyo, Andre De Ayew have all arrived in Ghana, and of course the training will continue. And on Wednesday, he will have a pre-match conference before the game on Thursday.
At least he's been honest with us. I can't guarantee you a cup, but I'll make sure that I build a team that will be difficult to beat and very competitive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wish him all the best. Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. Now, residents in some districts where there are supposed to be factories under government's one district, one factory policy have started fact-checking claims by government on that policy. Government has spent close to 1.7 billion cedis on the policy since 2017, but some of the companies supposed to receive funding says they've received absolutely nothing so far. Here are excerpts of the second part of our hotline documentary, One District, Some Factories, produced by Richard Kudonyako.
Like the Central, Eastern, Volta, Western, Greater Accra, Western North, the OT region, and many other regions we have covered in this documentary, the Ashanti region is no exception. Here, many of the factories that are captured in the records of the One District, One Factory Secretariat under the Ministry of Trade and Industries as factories that have been completed and operational were not so. If they say there's a plantain factory that's operating here, it's a lie. Fact-checking has been recognized as one of the potent tools for journalists, but residents, who are mostly farmers here, decided to fact-check the claims of their MP and government. Here at Agogo, there are abundant raw materials that should make any factory that was promised farmers flourish. But the farmers here say there is no factory to cater for their needs, contrary to the claims by the MP for the area.
Plantain factory no say yesia wi a baabi omso omusi no ehon ye nam ekwafuo ye ntise mfidie bi esu.
If they have indeed said that there is a plantain factory that's operating here, it's not true, because that's the same route we take when we are going to farm. And we've seen no vehicle load processed plantain for export. I have not seen any factory like that operating in this area.
Well, the food documentary airs tonight at 8:30 p.m. on the Joy News channel. It can also catch it on our many social media platforms. Tonight, there is renewed pressure on government to pay outstanding coupons and matured principals as far as bonds are concerned. As you may well recall, last week the government made payment on bonds and principals that matured on the 6th and 13th of February. But there are a lot more outstanding, including the 6th of March maturing bonds that were supposed to have been paid, particularly with the coupons. Well, tonight the Pension Bond Holders Forum have issued a statement demanding that the Finance Ministry issues a clear timeline for the payment of the remainder of the coupons and principals, as he indicates that pensioners are currently suffering. Many of them have still not been paid.
You see, as far as pensioners are concerned, once the issuer has exempted pensioners from this DDE, pensioners should not be thinking about whether government will have money today or tomorrow to pay. Government has given its full reaffirmation that the bonds that are held by pensioners, government doesn't have any problems whatsoever meeting the coupon and the principal payment. That is why it is not part of the restructuring exercise. And so pensioners have been told to just rest, sleep. Anytime your coupon or your principal is due, you go to your bank and it is there. That is the meaning of you having been exempted. So if you have exempted somebody with that, all that assurances that you don't have any problems, the issuer doesn't have any problems dealing with you, despite the fact that the issuer has economic problems. For you, your bonds, there are no problems associated with it, and that the issuer is going to pay as if it hasn't got any problems at all. And so you cannot be coming today, paying some and leaving some, in that manner. The first time we felt that, well, government was still looking at those who have tendered in and those who haven't tendered in. It takes some time before you can do that. But after you have done that, we don't have any reason for government not to be able to pay due coupons and due principals for pensioners who have been exempted from the exchange.
And that's convener of the Pensioner Bondholders Forum, Dr. Edu Ananiemchi. In a statement that was released, they had a warning for government, and I quote, "If the anomalous situation we are complaining about persists, we shall be left with no other option than to explore other means of getting resolution to the situation. We are happy to engage the ministry further if required, but trust that this will not be necessary." And that's a view there from the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. So live here on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM and to our Ghana Man series now. And there's a myth that people from northern Ghana are strong and very resilient, which has largely been attributed to how they are, just imagine that, how they bathe at birth. Whether it's a myth or real, the people of the area believe the combination of herbs and bones and other things combined in bathing the child makes them strong, healthy, and protected spiritually. In our Ghana Man series today, Martina Bugri takes you to the northern region where we get to understand why the people there believe this works.
Culture, they say, is unique to each region, tribe, or group of people. These beliefs transcend generations and are held dearly by the people. In Dabon, beyond the normal bathing of children with water and soap at birth, they also bath their newborns with herbs, which they believe keeps them strong and healthy. Let's listen to Mr. Alhassan Abubakar. He explains how it is done.
Face the world. The other one is the culture and tradition, yes, where we use herbs. And in this case, there are so many reasons that we do that. One is for spiritual reasons, so that the child grows up to be more spiritual. One other reason is for the normal killer disease. Some of these things were identified and tested long time ago. So because of that, when they give birth to a baby, they will use certain herbs together with certain other ingredients to bath the child, so that the child will be prepared against all these 6 killer diseases, the measles and the other diseases.
Mr. Hassan also talks about the health aspects of why they bath these children with herbs.
It's believed that, especially for male babies, they want the baby to grow up to be very strong, so that the child can fight well, the child can protect the family, the child will be the head. So for that matter, he needs certain preparation towards life. And such preparation comes with bathing the herbs. So there's a special herbs
Please go close. I want the
shots. I want to get very close shots. A child, so that the child grows up to be very strong, healthy, to protect the family.
Does it work?
Exactly.
It works after all. So now you know why people of northern extraction are believed to be that strong and very resilient. The Ghana Mat series continues. You can find the story on myjournal.com and across our many social media platforms as well. Up next is Playtime is Over. And guess who's talking about this? It's Nana Ansakwao. And it's on That's My Opinion. You want to stay with us for that and more, all here on Joy 99.7 FM.